Hello and welcome to Counterintelligence. Today we're going to be talking about building a casual deck. This might be your first deck, or maybe you have a current deck that you want to make some changes to, but the point of this video will be to help you build a good base for your deck to make sure that you aren't coming into some pretty common problems that people face whenever they're building a deck. Now, the first thing is the number of cards that's in your deck. 60 cards is the minimum for most formats, so that's what you're probably going to be playing with your friends. You want to stay close to 60 cards because when you go over that, it becomes far too easy to have land problems, high cost spell problems, low cost spell problems. You want to stick closer to 60 cards. It's easier to manage and easier for you to get good cards. So that's definitely the safest bet. The next thing you want to look at is your land base. 25 lands is the safest thing you could do. When you start going up to 30 lands, you're going to start having way too many lands in your deck. I'm sure you've all been in the situation where you're playing and your opponent has a real strong board presence and you draw that card and you're hoping it's something good and boom, it's a land. That's awful. So don't do too many lands. That's just going to bite you later. And you also don't want to go down to 20 lands in a deck. If you're doing 20 lands in a deck, you're probably going to have too few lands. You're not going to have enough in your starting hand, and even if you do, you'll never draw one for quite a while. That's way too low. You'd be surprised how much difference one single land added or taken out of your deck could make in most games. So depending on what you're playing in your deck is also going to decide how many lands you want to have in it. That's your mana curve. If you're playing a deck that has lots of little tiny creatures that do a lot of damage really fast, you want to have a lower amount of lands. 21 is the lowest you'd ever really want to go. 23 is going to be a little safer for a low mana cost deck. When you're doing a high mana cost deck, then 27 might be a little safer because you have high cost cards that aren't going to be able to come into play if you don't have enough lands. I would suggest green somewhere in your deck if you do plan to play anything over about 6 or 7 mana. 6 or 7 mana when you're playing with a 60 card format, 20 life is going to be really hard to get because some decks are really efficient and really fast and they can wreck you before you ever get that 7 cost card out that just sits in your hand. The next thing to talk about is theme. Most people make a deck because they see a cool card and they say, hey, I want to make a deck around this. That's good. Magic intended for you to do that. They do have a lot of themes that are prevalent through even multiple sets. But don't put cards in your deck just because they're of the same theme. They might not be very useful for what you're doing with the theme. You also want to look at, is this a somewhat weaker card in the theme that you could replace for something out of theme but much stronger? The way to evaluate these sort of things is to look at the card worth. When you're looking at a card, you have to make sure the card actually fits your deck and actually does things that are beneficial for you. It may be a powerful card and it may be strong, but if it's not really doing what your deck is intending for you to do, or if it's doing things that are countering what your deck is trying to do, a lot of people might say that just rare cards are going to be high card worth, and that's a mistake. You can counter a $50 card with pretty much a 2-cent common really easily, and then obviously that card outplayed the $50 card. Card worth is all in the eye of the beholder. So if you feel that your card is actually helping in your deck, then you should keep it in your deck. You might want to always be on the lookout for new cards to put in your deck to replace any cards that might not be the most efficient cards for your deck. I'm going to go into more discussion on certain color strategies in my next upcoming videos. Feel free to check those out at mrgamebot.com. You can also email me with any questions or comments you have at counterintelligence@mrgamebot.com.